We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, and that will be handled by Commissioner Unruh. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you bow your heads in prayer? Father, we come to this day. We are so grateful to be here gathered in your presence. We ask you to help us to make wise decisions. As always, Father, we ask you to protect our first responders, our policemen and our firemen, and all of those, Father, who are operating on our behalf. We thank you for this wonderful city, for the region we live in, and for a wonderful harvest, a bountiful harvest this year. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of our last meeting, August 20th?
There was just one that I noticed, and I let the clerk know about it.
Okay.
There was
Bill's-
a motion that needed to be changed. So,
Changed.
yeah, that was it.
Okay. So they'll stand approved as amended. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
At this time, we allocate 30 minutes for public comment. This is for anyone that wants to address the commission that's not on the agenda. Can stand up, state your name, and,
Can I skip the standing?
Yeah.
sure, yes,
I stood for the allegiance.
Yeah.
okay. Go ahead and,
I want to thank you for your time here. Grab my notes.
okay.
Just wanted to bring to your attention some things. I
You want to
see
state your name, please?
Ben Robbins,
Ben Robbins, okay.
class of 90, lifetime resident. Get my notes.
Okay.
I see, what I'd like to bring to your attention is I see this city from a different perspective because I ride this wheelchair all over town. Okay, it's become my main source of travel. I'm in the middle of building a car that will help me with that. Some of the things I'd like to bring to your attention are the conditions of the sidewalks in this town. I could get into a lot of specifics. I have been in contact with Sam Curran quite frequently. His most recent conversation with me, which he said he was going to address with you guys also, was that he's not going to follow me around town. Well, with the added traffic that's been added to Kansas Avenue, there is enormous amounts of gravel getting built up in front of all the ramps to the sidewalks. And that's all I wanted it was addressed. Well, his response was a little defensive. Recently, I was put in touch with a Ali Medina. She told me she was a newly appointed ADA compliance officer. Well, she called me. Well, I've left her 3 messages in the last 2 weeks about things I would like to see addressed. I have yet to receive a return phone call. So I don't know what happened there. But anyway, let me, the conditions of a lot of the parking lots in our businesses in this town are very poor. In front of Orschland's, Timeout, Family Dollar, the sidewalks there are atrocious. There's amounts of gravel and parking blocks and, outside of the parking lots in this town, AAA, for instance, the movie theater, the parking lot's horrible, especially for trying to load and unload a wheelchair. There are certain places I cannot go because of the handicap accessibility. Businesses in general don't pay any attention to their sidewalks. Recently, we had a sidewalk, a handicap ramp redone in front of Rupp's Chiropractic. That's the way they did that ramp forces me directly into Kansas Avenue traffic. It is, the way the ramp is pointed, it's very, very unsafe. And and that's one that Sam did address for me, but the way it was addressed was incorrect. I just wanted to bring, I mean, if you take our town from 3rd Street to Taylor Avenue, south of Kansas Avenue, all the 200-year-old trees are pushing every sidewalk in this town out of the ground. And it's it forces me into the street, which is very unsafe. And we have some streets that, I can tell you the crosswalks in this town, they're beautiful, but they are heck on my wheelchair because they're cobblestone. That is brutal on the wheels. I mean,
Oh, I, s-
my tires are bald right now.
right.
Because Medicare doesn't want me to do anything more than medically necessary. They want me to stay home. They will only buy me one set of tires a year. Well, that's not me. I volunteer for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I'm a member of a church. I don't stay home. I'm an active adult in my community, and it's very difficult for me to get around in this community. So I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. If you could point me in the direction, I mean, this is all new to me, point me in the direction to where I can get some results. I'd be more than happy to converse with somebody about what needs to be addressed and where, because I literally ride this thing all over town. Thank you. for
Okay,
your time.
well, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. We'll have Mrs. Medina get a hold of you, okay?
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Mr. West,
Mr. Mayor, I'm
You
not
want-
listed on the agenda, and I want to visit
Take-
with you today about the swimming pool thing, and it's, if you want to wait till after you get done with everything else, why, I'd be happy to wait and, so we could visit
well,
about
we've
that.
got
It's-
a few minutes now.
Well, it's up to you. I just,
Can you do it in 5 minutes?
well, no, we can't really get the topic started in 5 minutes. Or maybe you can, I can't. But that maybe is my profession, I don't know, but anyway. I'd rather wait till you have a little more time, if that would be.
That's fine.
If you would extend that courtesy to me, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Couple of-
Okay,
They're visiting this event.
6A.
Well, okay.
Mayor and Commissioners, item
Yeah.
6A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Angelica Castillo Chapel on behalf of the Community Mexican Fiesta Association to allow the mayor to proclaim the month of September 2019 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Garden City.
Mr. Allen, if I, we'll go ahead with that, then I want to talk to the mayor.
I'll make the motion to approve the proclamation as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the proclamation for the month of September 2019 as Hispanic Heritage Month, Garden City. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And I think you're reading that the morning of, or somebody is?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
I've assigned that.
I've been voluntold also.
Okay.
Hey,
Item 6B, the
Matt.
governing.
Mayor,
oh,
Matt, yeah, thanks. Mayor,
Yeah, your agenda.
well, before we get too far afield of what the request was, I think Mr. West has more of a public comment than discussion of an agenda item, and the only item I can see on the agenda related to the pool is a report of the Assistant City Manager on a recent visit to Garden City. Is that correct, Jennifer?
That's correct. It's just providing a schedule of Confluence visit.
So I think that the appropriate time for Mr. West to give you his comments and opinions would be during the public comment section. You don't take any action during that period on the agenda, and you don't answer questions, but it certainly affords citizens the opportunity to make comments. So if Mr. West wants to make comments, I think it's appropriate that you go back to that section in the agenda and let him make his comments.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I think you had stated that it was satisfactory with you if I relayed the matter. And Randy's not an elected member of the board, so I would certainly think that you elected folks up there could make your decision about who you listen to and when.
But we listen to him most of the time. We aren't lawyers, but I think we better, if you want to say something, let's go back to public comment and address it. And when I think you've said enough, I'll tell you. Go ahead.
Well, you know, pardon me for not standing up, but since my stroke back in last April, I'm not functioning very well, and I apologize for not having been here 2 weeks ago. I had fully intended to come and visit with you about this pool thing, but I just did not feel and could not make it. So I apologize for that. But I do have a lot of questions that I think should be addressed about the pool thing. And I first appeared before this commission in 1950 as a citizen. I was a student at our community college, and I and a group came and presented a petition about the swimming pool, about desegregating the swimming pool. And those of you who are previously have been discriminated against as minorities couldn't swim in the pool at that time at all, even though they were paying taxes. And a group of young people who were associated with the church got petitions that were signed by people in the various Christian churches in our community, and we came to the city commission and presented that to the commission, asking them to desegregate our swimming pool. The commission on that date was a 3-member group, had a Protestant, a Catholic, and a Jew, and they made a mistake. They turned the matter down. And I am thinking that we don't want you folks to make a mistake about the swimming pool. And that's why I'm here today. They later, of course, reversed themselves, and we got that matter straightened out. And I might say that our civil rights action was in 1950, which is 8 years prior to the thing that happened in Wichita, and 12 years prior to the bus boycott in Birmingham, Alabama. And that's just one of the things that has happened in the past. So I've been here a time or two, of course, and sat up there where you're sitting for 12 years in the past. There are several things that I'm concerned about, and I don't know whether you had occasion to read the article, my column, which appeared in the paper. Did any of you see that in the paper this week? I noticed Commissioner Unruh nodding his head. Any of the others?
I did not.
You did not?
No.
Well, I've got a copy of that, and I'll give it to you. But anyway, it sets out, the question is, when you discussed this matter before, you were concerned about the cost of the water that was being lost each day at the swimming pool, approximately 200,000 gallon per day. And I think our new Commissioner Dick, expressed feeling that that cost was such that we couldn't afford to spend capital that way. And I pointed out in the article that we don't know, first of all, or maybe you do, but it wasn't stated anywhere, we don't know how much is lost of that water to evaporation. And of course, what water isn't lost to evaporation is apparently going back into the aquifer. So it's not like the water is totally lost. Does anybody have a figure about what that cost, what we have set as the cost of that daily loss for water? I couldn't find that anywhere in the information. And of course, it's our water, since we pump it out of the ground, and of course, it costs us to pump it and put it in the pool and so on, but what,
Treat it.
let's see, it's right here.
I think
So-
we've got your question if you'd like us to answer it.
Yes, that's fine.
So 2 questions that you asked and 2 answers. The first one is the amount of water lost to evaporation is about 16,000 gallons of the 200,000 gallons that's lost each day, and that was actually a calculation that was done twice. It was done by engineers several years ago, and then it was also redone by the company that we're working with currently. The second question that you asked is how we attribute the cost, and the cost of the water is a formula by which Fred will probably have to give you the exact numbers. However, it's approximately $1,000 a day that is made up of water and chemicals that's lost from the big pool.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's a cost of production too. We're fully aware that we own the water that we're pumping. And I think Fred can distinguish between how we calculate the number or the dollar amount that's an actual dollar lost
Right.
to the city ratepayer versus what's the retail value of the water.
Yeah.
Fred, do you want to address that? No.
The value of the water is determined, we do a AWWA M36 audit where we take our budgetary information for each year and our water production from our various sources, and that monetary figure is $2.19 per thousand.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And I think Jennifer and Fred, both of those, the number, the loss, and the cost has been part of the, at least 2 different public presentations and packet material.
Correct.
Well, I was able only to attend one of those, and I don't recollect that figure was given. If it was, and my apologies. But at any rate, we're talking about a substantial sum of money, of course, but again, the water going back into the aquifer is not a total loss at all, because the aquifer is very important to us and helps refurbish our water, as we all know. The next question is that is there a cost or a system? What's the plan for paying for supposedly a new pool if we decide to get a new pool? I didn't see any financing information in the press about that, and perhaps you could tell us.
So, Mr. West, we also covered that in several of our presentations. However, the cost to operate the big pool has become so great, almost $800,000 each summer, not including the cost of the water that we're discussing, the $200,000 that we're losing. But that's essentially what we're spending on chemicals and labor and capital expenses for everything that breaks and is run down each summer. But that cost, what we've discussed in meetings, there's been nothing decided formally by the commission about how they will pay for the project, but the discussion has been that we would take those funds and allocate them over a period of time to pay for the project.
Do we have the money on hand at present time to pay for a swimming pool?
No, it would have to be bonded,
This
just
is
in the way that we discussed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that was my impression, because I hadn't seen it. We didn't have a kitty somewhere. We were going to stroke its back and cough up the money to furlough to pay for the pool. Well, so we're talking about here, do you have an approximate figure on that, Jennifer, yet, or not? Just a guesstimate, or?
No, it's going to depend on a lot of different factors, and most of that's going to be determining the size and all of the things that are included or not included in the project.
So, and those your latest bond interest rates, what have they been running?
Mr. West, I think these are valid questions. They are questions that we have addressed in other places, and I wonder if you could state your concerns rather than questions for the public. But we have other members here that, and other members of the community that we need to address their agenda items in a timely fashion as well, sir.
Well, I was perfectly willing to wait till they got through, and Mr. Drizel here is the one that threw the...
Well, and it's appropriate because public comment is public comment, but we have to be also mindful of others.
Yes, but this isn't a matter, ma'am, that can be discussed in 5 minutes by anybody.
I've given you 10.
These
and
are all
you've got
questions.
1 minute, in fact.
These are all questions that haven't been answered that the public needs to know. And here we're worrying about spending X number of dollars for water, and when we're talking now and then about possible $15, $20 million for a swimming pool, plus interest for the taxpayers are going to have to pay eventually. We have a good pool. We have a world famous pool that's known worldwide, and the problem of loss of water is totally inconsequential when compared to what the cost is going to be to the taxpayers for a new pool and the interest. So these aren't, I apologize, like I say, that I wasn't able to be here before.
Yeah.
But,
Mr. West, I think your time's up. I've given you more than double the time allocated, so we appreciate your comments, and probably the best thing to do is for Jennifer maybe to send him the information so he can go over it.
We don't
So-
even have any information as to what the architects are going to be paid for this contract that you signed, which looks like it was written by the company that we're dealing with, not by the city. One of the terms, very first terms is that if you don't sign it and send it back, we're in breach of the contract. So, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there that I think is very, very unwise for you folks to have signed, because indemnity bonds and talking about it, they've got subcontractors they're going to hire, and there's no figure in there as to what we're paying on an hourly basis or who's going to pay the subcontractors. There's no figure for the total compensation for this confluence, just to come out here and do some studies. Jennifer, I think, was very, very thorough in the studies that she did as far as going around and talking to people. Didn't agree necessarily with all the conclusions at all. But nevertheless, I don't understand why we think we've got to pay this architect firm or the company in Kansas City to come back out and do the same thing.
All right,
That doesn't
thank
make
you.
it- that doesn't make any
I
sense.
appreciate your time, but it's up, and if we need to, we can continue this maybe at a different meeting where
Well,
we'll have more time, but thank you for your comments.
I would think that you shouldn't send the contract in until after you've come up with an answer to a bunch of these questions, Mr. Mayor, because otherwise, I think you're getting us into a whole quagmire that's going to end up costing a lot of money. That's not going to benefit us at all when we can improve our pool and fix our
Right.
pool down there without spending an arm and a leg.
Thank you.
Item 6B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Finney County Senior Center to allow the mayor to proclaim the month of September 2019 as Senior Center Month in Garden City.
I move that we approve the proclamation as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the proclamation for the Finney County Senior Citizen Center. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is someone here? The senior
Is someone here
center?
from the Senior Center for this proclamation? Doesn't appear to be.
Okay.
Item 6C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Jack's Sports Grill for a waiver to the parking requirements on September 14th from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. at 1907 East Mary to hold an outdoor event with live music.
Is this similar to past? Is it 11?
Yes, I believe so.
11 to 11, yeah, go ahead.
Previously, have there been event issues, or is everything gone?
No way.
Depending on kind of the wind direction, the night of that event, and the hour leading up to 11, we may get a phone call or two. But for the most part, it's gone without incident. And certainly Jax has been responsive when we've showed up on scene. Is that correct? Chief, did you catch that discussion?
I was
The,
just, my question was, in the past, because it sounds like this has been approved in the past from this time frame, have there been complaints or incidents at this event, or has it been pretty well managed?
Noise complaints, but when we get one, we'll go monitor and check it out, and then they comply with our request if they need to turn it down.
Okay, thank
They
you.
have a tent, I think, out in front, don't they? for
Is
this?
it a tent?
Someone's here from Jackson. Can you come forward, state your name?
name's Joshua Wadle. I'm the current general manager of Jack Sports Grill.
Okay. What, do you have a tent set up for this event?
Yes, there will be a tent that's going to be set up in the front of our parking lot where we've done it in the years past.
And the band will be inside?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the way it was.
And we've administratively approved the noise waiver. I think this
Okay.
is the use of the adjacent property
Okay.
parking. They've agreed to conclude the event noise by 11 PM. And but by and large, the only, I would say, issue that's come up in the past is, depending again on wind direction, the noise can carry a little bit more towards the residential area. But an event concluding by 11 PM helps mitigate that a little bit. The
And we're
parking
actually aiming
seemed to
have the
work.
event over by 10.
10?
Yes, is when we're trying to have it done, that way being courteous neighbors.
And the parking situation has, the overflow parking situation has worked pretty good in the past. We
Can you
would
amend-
certainly recommend that than having people park in area parking lots and having to walk across Mary Street and do that type of thing. This puts it right next to their facility.
I make a motion that we approve the waiver to the parking requirements.
Second.
Okay. And is there you seconded? Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the waiver for the parking requirements and also the time, 11 A to 10 PM.
Is that in the request?
The request is 11 was
It's
that for the event that lasted from 11 AM to 11 PM, but there's no need for the commission to approve the noise waiver request. That was administratively approved by
Right.
us.
But what about the time? He said they're going to be done by 10.
I'm okay leaving it by 11 if they get done by 10. I
Okay.
mean, we don't need to change that.
Well, then we'll just
No.
leave it like it is,
Yeah.
11 PM. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 6D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Athletic Director Drew Tone on behalf of USD 457 for approval of an aircraft landing in the corporate limits of the city on September 6th at approximately 6 PM. Staff recommends approval.
I make a motion that we approve the request as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the waiver on the aircraft landing at the Garden City High School, September 6th. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay. Mayor and Commissioners, if it's all right to jump down to 7D, we've got a guest here on that, and we can get her back, but it's going to start with Assistant City Manager Cunningham providing a review of the different events happening for the Garden City Charity Classic.
Okay.
Mayor and Commissioners, just want to update you and make you aware of the things that are going on this week with the Garden City Charity Classic. So tonight kicks off our event. Although many of the girls started arriving in town yesterday, I was at the golf course and they were already practicing. So I know their event is well underway already. But we have our kickoff with our pairings party and pro-am party tonight at the exhibition building. It's a country western theme. You'll all have tickets and we would appreciate you coming, but if you can't make it, we'll definitely update you on how it goes. There will be a silent and live auction that benefits the Southwest Kansas Girls High School golf teams. They receive 100% of all of the proceeds from the live and silent auction tonight. And then we'll pair up everyone with their pros who are all invited. So it's about 300 people that will be at the event tonight. We'll pair them up with their teams to play tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll have 2 pro-ams. We'll have a morning pro-am and an afternoon pro-am. We did sell out both events, which is awesome, both for the pros and for us. And so that'll be a really nice event, which will be capped off by the high school golf event, which will be sponsored by Old Chicago. And the girls and the pros will get to play, sign t-shirts that the CVB purchased for both the Symetra girls and for the high schoolers. Get the backs of them signed and learn all the trips and tips for being on the road and traveling and doing all that kind of stuff. And then Thursday is a practice round for the girls. They'll just spend all day at the course practicing, and then we'll have the junior clinic on Thursday night for the young kiddos, and that is sponsored by American Warrior, and we'll have ice cream and cookies, and they do a really nice job with that event. And then the real golf starts on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the pros. So come out and watch. It's free on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to come watch. You can go up to the chalet and check things out. We'll have food all weekend. If you want to volunteer, we're still looking for volunteers, especially caddies for the girls, if there's anyone who's interested. And we do have a young lady who's with us today. Her name's Portland, and she's going to come up and talk for just a minute.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
My name is Portland Rosen. I'm actually from Houston, Texas, born and raised. But I play on the Symetra Tour. I play golf at University of Virginia and then decided to do this crazy life. But I think I've attended some commissioner meetings in my hometown in Houston as well, so this is awesome. But I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for hosting us here in Garden City. The hospitality is above and beyond. Several girls can attest that this is one of our favorite stops, for sure. I don't think that many of us would ever even make it to Garden City if it wasn't for this golf tournament. So I wanted to say thank you, and I definitely recommend coming out to play, or to come out and watch, or volunteer, because these girls are good, and they travel all summer playing 23 events, and it's a grind because their dream is to make it on the LPGA. And they work really, really hard. You can see them out there from morning to night. But I think it's also great that you guys are doing the clinics for the young girls, because that's where it all started. I mean, I looked up to someone when I was young, and I think it's good that we are also involved with teaching them, and because that's how you learn. And there's a lot of scholarships out there just to get the college education. So I highly recommend putting kids in golf, because it does teach you etiquette, just people traveling. And so I won't take up all your time, but thank you guys very much for having us, and we're so happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your
And
play.
good luck.
Good luck.
It's a huge week. It's a big week.
Okay. Anything, going to go back to C.
Item 7A, Ambrose Sammy is present to present an update on the Sports of the World project. And I think maybe he passed this off to Molly.
Ah,
Yeah.
That's right.
Thanks for having us. I'm Molly Basham with American Warrior Construction. We just wanted to, can you go ahead and start the,
I can. Everybody titles their stuff City Commission
CC9.
presentation.
no, CC. There you go. And it should just run. It should play. It should just go. So this is a visual update of the project so far. We all knew when we were going to the Starbomb project that we had to create a destination, something that is a one-of-a-kind facility. So this is so far what we have put together. Right now we're just going to do a flyover video of the entire facility, and then we have some stills of the end of the inside. So right now you're looking at Sports of the World, the big complex in the back. That's where we'll have the facilities for the basketball and the volleyball, soccer, baseball. The facility will be large enough to hold specialty events, cheer, wrestling tournaments, gymnastics meets, whatever we can dream of, we can hold in there. And then the Sports of the World facility also will hold an indoor trampoline park, as well as a banquet and catering facility to host meetings, special events, whatever we need. And then we have the indoor pickleball, the outdoor activities, and then of course the restaurant. It moves kind of slow, I'm sorry.
Can you orient everybody? So we're looking at, other than being like a couple hundred feet in the air, we're looking from which direction?
This will be the south. So when you're pulling in, if you were coming off of Schulman and LaRue, the hotel is where you would, the first thing you would see. And then as you pull forward, then you see the restaurant.
Off in the left, very left-hand corner at the top is the
hotel.
existing restaurant.
That
or
would be
existing
the
hotel.
Heritage Inn. Yep, that's what you would see right there.
So we're headed north right now.
Yep, there's an extra banquet facility entrance right there for private events if you need to come through without going through the sports center, watch the trees. This is how you get into the restaurant area. Now, the really, one of our wow factors with this is the outdoor facility, the outdoor play, the family involvement, being able to sit down and have a drink and some food and let your kids play in the area. And then also we have the indoor pickleball, where you could reserve the courts, play, eat, hang out. It lends itself to just a really fun environment.
I have a question. This is wonderful. Because there's like the restaurant and there's kind of, there's kind of also so there's obviously the destination aspect of it, but there's also maybe folks who just want to come and have dinner and let their kids play. Do you envision kind of having it sectioned off in different ways, or is there going to be an entry fee to the facility, or how is that really going to work? I'm thinking more for the people who are here all the time versus the destination customer.
Really, this facility was, there's not an entry fee or anything like that. You come into the restaurant, anybody can come in and eat and enjoy the restaurant and enjoy the games outside. The pickleball, indoor and outdoor, would have to be reserved because we're hoping it's a popular event. And then, but as far as, of course,
free to kind of
security,
visit or,
I mean, we of course have places that are, if there's no sports going on, it's guarded off. You can't go in there, whatever.
Well, this is very nice with the layout. I mean, I think that's what's so nice is it looks like a nice place to just go and walk around and hang out.
And that's
see
a
what's going
covered
on.
stage area right there. We'd be able to have outdoor music or puppet shows, whatever.
Puppet shows.
And it's kind of nice. They'll go into, turn the lights off a little bit, and then you can see what it looks like at night when it's all lit up with the uplighting. And keep in mind, we have not completed finishes. So it may not be orange, it may not be black, it may not be pine. We've come up with some of those, but as far as finishes go, it's not 100%. There is an extra outdoor facility with restrooms and then another food and beverage. Then there's the outdoor pickleball courts and also some outdoor volleyball.
We named the restaurant actually Cecil's Burger and Pickle. We thought about it. It took a while to get him talked into it. So.
Cecil.
The next slides go a lot faster.
Is the outdoor area from the restaurant, is that going to be fenced in?
Yes, the whole thing will be fenced.
Everything is going to be fenced in. It will be safer for the kids and just more controlled environment. Most of the places we visited that have similar, the reaction, interaction with families and kids was just phenomenal. Just, you can take your kids. We've seen some couples, some kids, and just some college students just hang around or playing a game, and a place that can be safe for families to go to and enjoy their evening or day.
These get into the stills of the inside. This will be going into the Sports of the World facility. Here's the outside again. Life-size battleship. This is looking out from the restaurant onto the courtyard area. This is back into the facility, right into the main mezzanine, or the main hall. You could go left into the trampoline park and then straight into the Sports of the World facility. This would be the entrance right there. There would be concession stands, some spots for vending. To the left would be soccer, to the right is volleyball and basketball. Upstairs takes you up to the mezzanine. This is basketball and volleyball. It shows with both basketball and volleyball down, but probably only one is going at a time. Net separating courts so that you can have multiple teams going at once. This is banquets. This is a banquet room looking out into the courtyard.
You can seat about 700 people and banquet facility, which can be divided different events. And all of the banquet rooms going to look out to the courtyard for breakouts if they needed a breakout, so they can walk out to the courtyard where the pickle courts are. This one here is the mezzanine. We're going to have a snack bar on the second floor.
The trampoline park will also have the birthday rooms or party rooms that could be used in the sports facility or the trampoline park. There's entrances from both sides. This is the restaurant, Cecil's. And he took a lot of convincing. That was, and then this would be the hotel. This is the Holiday Inn Express, 93 rooms, 27 suites, which lends itself perfectly when you're having big tournaments. You need lots of space for families. And that's it. Now we go back through it. You can loop through it again.
Yeah. What's,
Ms. Windering's very nice.
give us an update on time, would you? Sam?
Our goal is to start moving dirt probably. We just applied for our permits, for just the dirt permits, and we got that approved. We're looking probably in a week or two, we're gonna start moving dirt and get the pads up. And as we've gone through the process, we're probably next is gonna be getting our sewers and water and everything going. We're gonna put everything out for bids probably in a couple of weeks. Architects should be done with it. Hotel and the sports of the world and everything. So we're getting closer.
Okay,
A lot of
looks good.
excitement.
Looks good.
Sure.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thank
You
you.
guys probably
Thanks
know
for
this,
that.
and it's just a question, but when these tournaments book, like USTAF or whatever, do they book out like 3-4 years? So
Yep,
we're starting to get on the
typically,
radar.
You join like my daughter plays travel volleyball, you join a volleyball association, and then the association would then set up tournaments in your area.
Yeah, so it's about the right timing.
And we already started kind of looking at some of these events.
Yeah.
Scheduled and we're looking at a lot of.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting to be booking tournaments when you're moving dirt.
Yeah.
It's a little nerve-wracking.
But probably that's about the
Gotta be
timeline.
optimistic, right?
That's right. That's very good. Well, it turned out very nice. Thank you
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you for the update.
It's really
Thank
great.
you.
Okay.
Item 7B, Assistant City Manager Cunningham will present on a recent visit by representatives from Confluence, Inc. regarding the big pool.
So 2 recent visits, one that we just had on the 24th and one that's coming up this weekend. So first, Confluence came out on August 24th in hopes of hitting one of our last pool days.
Everybody named.
We only had, after you guys signed the contract with Confluence, there was only 2 weekends left of actual swimming. We do have the pool, or the dog swim this weekend, but for children and adults to go swimming, it was the 24th and 25th, or it was Labor Day weekend. And so in talking with them, they were able to get out here on the 24th. We were able to run a communications effort that allowed us to do a free day at the pool. And we did have about 362 people come through the door on August 24th, which, as you all know, is about 32 more than our average daily attendance. So we did hit a large group of people, and it was really well received, lots of great conversations with Confluence, and they were happy with the visit. So they are bringing their full team out this weekend, and they're going to be doing a lot of different things. They're going to come in on Thursday night and do a kickoff meeting with staff and stakeholders, and then we will also do a site visit and a walkthrough to answer any additional questions that they have about the current site. And then Friday, they're going to hit Food Truck Fridays. They're going to do a meet and greet, which is going to be a completely come and go from 2 to 5 at the city admin building. You can show up anytime you want to talk to them during that period, and they will be here to answer questions and provide information. And then they're going to hit the Garden City High School versus Derby game on Friday night in hopes of being both at the entrance and at the concession stand to hit parents and other families. And then Saturday, they're going to hit the Garden City Charity Classic, the dog swim, and then they'll also have a booth. Thanks to the wonderful folks at Friends of Lee Richardson Zoo, they will have a booth at Wild Affair where they will also be able to talk to people that evening. And then Sunday, they'll do a wrap-up and provide us with any information that they received from those 2 visits. So for anyone out there who wants to talk pool, these are the places to be Friday, Saturday of this week. They're here to talk to you, and they're talking all things history, how to incorporate history, colors, scheme, what do you want, all of those things that need to happen or be part of whatever we decide to do. So,
Sounds good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor and Commissioners, item 7C, I will share. the public information items being used by Finney County in their November 19th Building Road Maintenance Program sales tax authorization. So bear with me and I'll do that. Pause for suspense. Some really nice flyers. So one of these you're going to have to imagine in sort of a trifold format, but the county commissioners this morning viewed this information. This is what they'll use for the Broad Ridge Building Road Maintenance Program. The Building Road Maintenance Program generates, as you'll see in one of these visuals, a significant amount of money for the City of Garden City's general fund. You'll see in this approximately $2 million that's generated, about just short of $1 million of it comes to the City of Garden City General Fund. When this was approved in 2010, I believe,
yeah.
Maybe by the voters in 2009, implementation was in 2010. The City Commission helped pass the issue when city commissioners went out on the public information road with county commissioners. The information that was shared was that we would use it for similar uses, recurring maintenance, particularly related to transportation, and then the reauthorization did the same. Now this is, wasn't in the ballot language that the city would use that, so it's not a dedicated sales tax, but it's certainly a political pledge to use the money in a similar fashion that the previous two commissions that were involved with either the original passage or the first reauthorization have stuck to. I can let maybe Melinda give you a little bit more of a feel, but her and I have visited over the years of, are we hanging in there? Can we justify this amount? And we can, more than justify it, probably exceed it by several hundred thousand. Is that correct? And I don't know if you want to speak any more to that, Melinda?
During the budget workshops that we have all through the summer, we always look at sales tax, and one of them that we always look at is city, but county is also very much important too. So that quarter cent, like Matt says, would generates roughly $900 to $1 million for the city of Garden City only. And if you had to divide your valuation by that amount of dollars, it would be roughly 4.5 mils. And that money is spent very well in your street maintenance program. As you see in your street budget, we split that with our special traffic way fund, so it's utilized very well for street projects.
Well, I think did the county put this together, or they have
They
a consultant?
did.
I thought they did a really good
County
job.
staff.
And I think it's a lot of information. Striking is just the sheer cost for, the citizen to recognize how expensive road maintenance is, and the amount that we, and indeed, just to Melinda's point, the point that it would impact our mills is significant. Nice information, though. They did a nice job.
So I think the other thing is, this is not an increase, it's just maintaining what we have already, right?
It's a reauthorization, correct.
And for 6 years? Didn't see that on here. Does it say that?
Yeah, the timeframe is under question 1 under frequently asked questions. So it'd be beginning October 1, 2021, and
Oh,
ending
there it is.
September
Okay.
30th, 2027, pursuant to the statute.
Okay. Do we need to take any action, or just
No,
for
it's,
information, I guess?
Item for your information. We've done D, so 7E, staff's able to provide an update on the grant application process for an inclusive playground addition at Harold Long Park. Do we have staff here that can speak to that? I don't think we do. I'll do it. pardon me. So city staff and the Park and Tree Advisory Board were approached about the need for inclusive playgrounds and/or playground equipment in city parks that are designed to provide an accessible, safe play space for people of all abilities. These playgrounds were designed to remove barriers of exclusion so all children can experience play together. Together with Livewell Finney County, the grant application was completed and submitted in April 2019. The City of Garden City was awarded $30,000 in the form of a play space grant from the National Recreation and Park Association and the Walt Disney Company. Construction of the new play space has begun at A. Harold Long Park with a completion date of later this fall. I think we have some pictures attached for you that address both location. So if you're familiar where the existing play structures are, very near those. This is a rendering of what you could anticipate. So we're pleased to partner again with Livewell Finney County and also the National Recreation and Park Association. Any questions on that? I don't know that I can answer that, but we could get back to you at the next meeting.
Looks good.
Thank you. Item 7F, we're excited about this. This is the project that would never end. So years ago, in a galaxy far, far away, we started the Pioneer Pathway Project. The original amount was approximately $350,000, the original budgeted amount, for which we were awarded nearly $250,000 in funding assistance from KDOT. The project was initially let in 2017. Cost of land acquisition, a fence that wasn't originally anticipated but was required as a condition of the land acquisition, and a higher than anticipated construction design and cost and material costs led to a project that significantly exceeded the original estimate. Nonetheless, the city is pleased to let you know that a final walkthrough for this project is scheduled for September 11, 2019. Folks are already using the trail. It's being heavily used, I would say. Final project cost was $796,400. Here's some pictures of the trail. The erosion control is down, just not up yet. That'll probably take some time. You can see it there, the erosion control there. One of the really nice things about this project, actually two things I'd like to point out. One, when we did our comprehensive plan 10 years ago, we talked about transportation in a way that wasn't car-centric. We talked about pathways, existing pathways and future pathways to carry bike ped, to carry fixed route transportation, and to carry traditional vehicles. A passage from the east and west along the northern part of the community was in that comprehensive plan and was viewed as an important part to carry people in general, but particularly kids from a couple population pockets in the northeast part of town to grade school and intermediate school, and whether that be the 5th and 6th grade center or the middle school. So we're excited that this trail's in place, and it's certainly been a long project when you think about how long it took when the commission authorized it, and then the big project was let and eventually got constructed. But even longer when you look back and say, you know, this thing was originally, the groundwork for this was laid 10 years ago when we were looking at how can we expand our already well-used and popular bike ped system. Any questions on the project?
I do. I actually have a question, but I don't know if it's appropriate, but I guess I just want to ask, since Mr. Robbins is here, and he brought it to my attention with his comments about gravel. which I hadn't considered as being such an issue. And I'm just wondering about your experience on either the Tally Trail or in the trail system on your chair and your experience. And maybe I'm asking out of turn, but I would like your input.
The one thing I noticed about the pictures is right there at the base of the entrance, where the accessible ramp is, you have the little red brick with the nodules and everything. That's brutal on my wheelchair. I mean, it tears up my suspension, it's bumpy.
Well, I think that's
I understand the
required,
purpose of
yeah.
it, but with, that particular one is probably not an issue. But what, as decorative is all of the cobblestone crosswalks we have in town, they are actually brutal on the parts on my wheelchair. They're very rough, very difficult for me to transition on. Somebody with a manual wheelchair probably wouldn't even be able to. I mean, they are very nice looking, very attractive, but as far as handicap accessibility, they're not very conducive.
Okay.
But yeah, to me, that looks fine. I mean, a lot of the problems we have in this town are the ramps are not ADA compliant. And what I mean by that is when you have an elevation, it's supposed to be 1 foot of ramp for every inch of elevation. Well, I can tell you there are a couple hundred ramps in this town. They're not even close. And how I can tell you that is looking, because this is what hits those when I try to cross them. I mean, I've had this replaced because it just destroys my wheelchair.
Well, thank you. As we were looking at these pictures, that occurred to me, and I appreciate your presence here today, so I wanted to ask.
I understand the purpose of those, but they are difficult for a wheelchair to transition.
Matt, I have a question on, where does this difference, how do we make up the difference here from 796?
You bonded the balance of the project, and it'll
So it'll go
be
into
paid for
our
over
10 years? Okay. GO bond.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Guess we're ready for G.
Yeah, the Police Chief Utes is present and will provide an update on the Police Department organizational study.
Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. As you're aware, earlier this year, the city contracted with the McGrath Consulting Group to conduct an organizational study of the police department. One of the deliverables of the study was a list of recommendations, and the police department, and in some cases other departments, specifically HR, have been very busy researching and implementing many of these recommendations. Every week, we hold a command staff meeting with lieutenants and above, and after the staff meeting, we have a discussion on the progress and where we're at with the recommendations. We've been working very hard over the last 2 months. The first step was to create this roadmap there was 104 recommendations. In yellow are the ones that have been completed. It's helped us move forward and see what we need to continue to work on. After we completed the roadmap, we assigned personnel, reached out for volunteers. Most volunteered, very little voluntold. And they've taken pride in working and getting these recommendations completed. The next step was we implemented our new organizational chart, went through a promotion process after completing and identifying what our assessment center would be, and we moved forward. I'm pleased to announce right now we're over 25% completed with the recommendations. So I'll answer any questions that you have.
I really appreciate the update and how much has been done, and really this is awesome. You can really tell you made progress, and that command staff working on a weekly basis, boy, that really keeps you focused. And I just wanted to say thank you. I was curious, and you've done an incredible job here.
Still a lot of work to do, but we'll get there.
That was a lot of, that was a lot to take on.
I know there was kind of a rating system, like level 1 was kind of the most serious, and then 4 was kind of like get to it when you can.
Right.
Have you addressed most of the level 1 issues. I mean,
Yeah,
I read through that, and a lot of them were completed, but there were some that you're doing research on.
Right, a lot of the priority ones were in HR, police department, concerns that we had to work on. There's a lot of the open ones that haven't been completed. Research is being conducted on those.
Okay. But it looks good. You guys been busy.
Really well done, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief.
Water Resource Manager, item 7H, Water Resource Manager Jones is present to provide a mid-year update regarding the water consumption in Garden City.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Okay. Go ahead and get started with the report. As of August 21st, the city's produced 1.19 billion gallons of water for the city. This is a decrease of about 13.7% from the same period last year. We saw quite a bit of increased usage in July and August. We didn't get all of August in before we had to have this report ready for the packet, but you can see on the chart, the usage was kind of in line with where we've been the last few years until the heat came along and the reduction in savings evaporated quickly, pun intended. Our daily water consumption, again, actually we had a very good year for our average daily consumption compared to the last 5 years or so. We've been staying very much in line or below what has been typical. That's keeping in mind the additional facilities we've added in the city over the past few years. We have new homes, new businesses, new industries in town, and so on a daily basis, they're all using water. And so to keep that average in check like we have, I think is a testament to the weather that we've had to deal with, but also I think some of the new construction techniques, the type of facilities that are put in with new construction, they're keeping an eye towards water conservation. But again, when it gets hot, that number will spike as we see in July. This thing's on turbo. Okay. In 2016, PEC did a study for the city, part of our master plan, and when we were looking at doing our water rate study, they were looking at the future water demand from the data they had and kind of looking at what we could expect in terms of water consumption for the city. On this chart, the red line indicates the amount of water we can pump through our city water rights. And they were showing that it looked like probably somewhere between 2020 and 2025, we're going to be needing to develop additional water rights. So we've been tracking something similar to this to kind of show roughly what's happening. There we go. And this is where we've been the last 3 years. The most recent year is on the left, 2018. And then what we're doing is taking our annual pumping limit, our 7,010 acre-foot water right cap, and then the water that we purchase from Wheatland Electric is included in that, and that's shown on that green line in the chart. And so, again, we're staying pretty level, but we're getting pretty close to that line. So water we pump, there is an impact to water we pump. Whether it goes back to the aquifer or not, we have a certain amount of authority for pumping water, and we're getting close to that. The cost to develop new water will be significant to increase our acre-foot allotment. We keep looking at non-revenue water. We've been working very closely with the Parks Department over the past few years. This is the overall picture of what our water usage looks like on the non-revenue side. This is water that is being used in parks, playgrounds, city facilities. It's water that all of our customers are paying for. It's part of our budgetary considerations to provide this water. As you can see, the biggest portions of the pie right now are the pool, the zoo facility. Of course, the zoo is operating year-round. Recreation Commission, and then Public Works is our Parks Department. Facilities are included in Public Works. And then the remainder of the pie is cemetery, other public buildings, usage that we have outside of our outdoor infrastructure.
Fred, will the new cemetery project, I know that's going in, will that change this percentage, you think, or are we going to see any significant savings?
Well, we'll start accounting for that differently. That water will be water outside of the public water supply. Right now, all the public parks facilities in the city of Garden City are being provided water from the public water supply. What we did at the cemetery was use an existing irrigation right. We're developing that right to take care of the cemetery and relieve some of the strain on the public water supply so we can provide water for potable purposes. So it will make that chart look different, but we'll also be accounting for that in the future just to give the commission an idea of what's happening there. Some things we've been working on, weather-based irrigation. During our budget presentations, I think there was some mention about the water department continuing to explore promoting weather-based irrigation technologies. This is Rotary Park, 3rd and Johnson. They've had a weather track system there. There's a number of irrigation clocks in the city that are on a weather-based system now. But Rotary Park was the first one we brought online to test this. This is a traditional irrigation system. Rotors come up out of the ground, sprinkle overhead onto the turf. We've observed in this period a 45% reduction in water at Rotary Park. And again, where we're seeing the savings is at the beginnings and the ends of the season. In the cooler months and at the end of the season when things calm down and cool down, we are saving water there. July is July is July, August is August is August. So you'll continue to see those peaks. The plant requires a certain amount of water to supply, but where we can save water is at the beginning and the ends of those seasons, where those systems are making automatic adjustments rather than park staff. It's an impossibility for them to go out and adjust on a daily basis to account for weather conditions with the number of irrigation clocks that they keep.
Hey, Fred,
Yes.
2017 and 2019, April is shown as a zero or a virtual zero. Is that the smart irrigation technology, or is that just a smart parks department not turning on the system until May?
That is a smart parks department not
Okay.
turning on the system until they needed to start irrigating.
Okay, so the
Good
when it's at
winter
zero, that's a human thing, but
Yeah.
once numbers start registering, that's more than likely the mechanics of whatever we've installed.
And it is possible that mechanically that you could get a similar outcome as well, but Andy and his department do a really good job keeping track of what's going on with the turf and not starting those systems up till it's needed. So if we have good winters, good winter moisture, we can actually delay turning those systems on. This is another project. This is kind of a big project. We did a grant with the Bureau of Reclamation for this park. We installed a subsurface irrigation system here, and that went, the first full year that was used was in 2018. And Andy, if he were here to comment today, I won't put too many words in his mouth, but he will tell you there is a learning curve to operating an irrigation system that waters from the bottom up. And so 2018 wasn't a good year. 2019, however, though, now that we've adjusted for it, learned how to make things work, has been amazing. That field has, I want to get that savings amount in there, 61% is the savings over the year-to-date last year, and 42% average savings over the past 4 years that's shown there on the screen. So that's a good trend for that park in a neat project. There's also a few other, Public Works has been doing a good job. This isn't the water department doing this. This is maybe the water department talking about the situation, but Public Works has been investing in doing subsurface projects in several places around town. These are the types of savings that they're able to realize from those. Again, just for your awareness, drought conditions, even though we're toward the end of the irrigation season, are starting to creep back up. This map last spring was totally clear for the state of Kansas, but we're seeing drought potentially coming back, at least to southwest Kansas. Our friends in northwest Kansas aren't sharing any of the moisture that they're getting right now. But we are having a warmer than average summer, and our water usage is showing that.
Is that dot Garden City?
It's pretty close. I'd say it's pretty close to Garden
It's
City.
my dad's farm.
So again, it's not anything like what we were dealing with a few years ago, where virtually the entire western United States was every color of the rainbow on that map. So again, something we want to keep in mind, and we try to communicate that with the commission. If we see those get problematic, then we'll continue to communicate that with the city customers. Just to close, other activities we've been working on, leak detection. We're utilizing the billing software for the city to keep track of leaks. We right now are looking for more major problems for customers, but we're able to, thanks to the metering software we have, we can get a pretty good idea if a customer has a leak. We also have a lot of information that we can work with customers on if they have questions about their bills. So they're always welcome to visit with us. I think later this fall we'll be rolling out additional tools that customers can use to help manage their water use, and when the time's appropriate, we'll make sure to share that with everyone. Last thing, wanted to remind you of, we continue to do the AWWA's recommended water auditing. This is to audit our losses within the system. We're looking at what's going on primarily with our metrology. We are checking water meters. We're checking water meters against other water meters using real-time measurement, where we can see how accurate plus or minus our production meters are, our very large meters that are producing water for the city. We're trying to get, again, make sure that what we're saying is loss is actually loss and not due to metering issues. And so those audits have been going well for us. It also helps us establish some costs for our non-revenue water. And that's all I have for this update.
Any questions? Anybody?
Great savings.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Good, thanks. Good report.
Mayor, would you be interested in considering jumping up item 12D? I think there'd been a forecasted start time of around 2 o'clock for that agenda item, and I don't know that we're far away, but we're certainly 30 to 45 minutes away from that item if we don't move it up. There's several people in attendance that would like to speak to that.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Item 12D, the governing body is asked to consider its role in addressing public infrastructure and service needs for Gillespie Place, private neighborhood. I'll read this item, bear with me while I get to that.
Okay. Thanks. Do you want to note, Lindsay?
Commissioners, recently there have been 2 issues that have emerged which call attention to the difference between platted public subdivisions and private neighborhood. The most visible one is damage caused to the southeast identification pillar for Gillespie Place. This pillar was damaged before. In 2014, the city agreed to hire a contractor and have it fixed for the neighborhood because at the time, the neighborhood did not have the financial mechanism in place to take care of its problem. The cost was approximately $1,600. While a neighborhood group is forming, we don't believe that they are constituted in a way to address infrastructure issues nor have funds set aside for emergency repairs like this one. The city has received a quote for $3,000 to repair the pillar. Since Gillespie Place is a private neighborhood, the city does not have the platted and dedicated road rights of way that it has through virtually all of the remaining neighborhoods of the incorporated area. This is a contributing factor to another property owner in the neighborhood who is unable to determine for certain the boundaries of their property. If a road right-of-way existed, then it would be highly likely that the southern boundary of this property would have a completely, and that should actually be northern boundary, southern boundary of the road, would have completely defined that property. The city has historically provided trash service to this neighborhood as well as snow removal services, all using private property that in other areas is public right-of-way. At some point in the future, maintenance of that private roadway will be an issue. There are two purposes of this agenda item today. One, determine the willingness of the city commission to repair at the city's expense the Gillespie Place pillar. Two, the interest of the city commission in moving forward with developing terms by which the neighborhood might dedicate public rights of way to the city to begin maintaining that infrastructure. A group of neighbors interested in discussing their options for preserving the history and the infrastructure of the neighborhood had recently met. They may be present and have more detail on what they're requesting, if anything. I've also received a visit earlier today from a resident, Marie Osterber, and I know she wants to address the commission and ask you to move this item to a future agenda item to give the neighborhood some more time to learn. I don't know that if a neighborhood meeting did happen, it doesn't sound like it included all of the neighborhoods. So there certainly isn't a matter of urgency. We don't believe the pillar is in imminent risk of falling down. We have been over there and tried to move it. Now, if you drove by and look at it, it looks like a 10-mile-an-hour wind will knock it over. But it's sufficient weight that it's not going anywhere unless it's struck again, which I guess is a bit out of our control. And it also isn't a piece of city property or is not on city property. So I guess that's the background. Mayor, I know at least Ms. Osterber would like to visit, and something was getting dropped off on, something from Marie and the Swicks as well.
You want to
Hello, how are you all today?
state your name, please?
My name is Marie Osterberg.
Okay, thank you.
And we live on Gillespie.
Mm-hmm.
And we had no idea that this was on the agenda today until last night. So we're not prepared. We have not had a community meeting yet. We have one scheduled for the 15th of September. And we will probably have to have another meeting after that. So we are requesting that you schedule this end of this thing until the 1st of October or something to give us time to do a little research. And since it's come up, we'd like to request the documentation for the ownership of the street that you all might have, so we know. Because this might be kind of like the pool. You all might not remember that, but the pool, it was always stated that there was no fee to be charged for the swimming pool. Well, that was never found in the documents. So, you know, this is sort of the same way. We call it a private street, but we know it's a public street. And that's been proven, you know, by the years of use and so forth. And is there a copy of the easement or the right-of-ways for the utilities on this street?
I don't know what you're speaking to. We don't believe there's any documentation of any public right-of-way. I think that's the point of the agenda item. Mm-hmm. There's no, everything we can determine is the entire neighborhood's private property.
My name is Rosie Slick, and I live at 1101 Gillespie Place. We're actually neighbors, and we have a couple other neighbors here. But
Okay.
I did want to mention that we have had our property surveyed, and I know a couple of others have as well. And per our surveyor also, our deeded property is just strictly our personal area. So the street is, therefore, we want to know if that's owned by the city then. So they should maintain things or what. So that's something maybe we could, I don't know if you consider replatting that area or what, when the last time that was platted, or, you know, I know a lot of houses are being sold in the area, new owners, and a lot of the, what used to be the hearsay and, you know, word of mouth conversations are kind of gone and lost, and a lot of the new, you know, neighbors don't know about that. So we have had questions come up about property lines and who does this and whatnot, but, and it's true, as far as we've known, the city has maintained that. So I don't know, I mean, I think, I can't speak for everyone, but for several of us, I think that we are kind of just, we'd rather the city go ahead and keep that up, you know, as we're not, you know, we never have done any of that and don't even know really where to begin with all of that, so.
Okay.
We would certainly be supportive of having this item moved to a time when the neighborhood's more comfortable and can get them all the information that they're asking for.
Yeah, and if you could provide us with your documentation so we will know, we would
Okay.
appreciate it.
I'm Sister Janice, and I also live on that street, and I've been told that the south side of it is platted, but the north side is not, so I don't know if that's true or not. But a lot of it's totally hearsay, and like they already said, it's been treated as a public street. I knew it was on the label, but I didn't know it was still this way. So my question is, what do we lose by just saying to the city, it's yours?
Well, it'd have to be platted.
It was platted in 1970 is the last we did.
We do have maps that I've actually presented to Matt at one prior meeting and Sam. And we have some abstracts and other research things that we have dated clear back into the 20s even. That do kind of show that what is private property, and there is one section that says basically, you know, that it is, I think just has always been run the city, by the city, even questioned way back then, you know, so, yeah. So maybe we could have a little more time then, yeah, to do a little more research, and maybe if you'd all like to also, you know, do some digging as well, we can all kind of come to an easier decision on all of that.
So if it's platted, then the people who aren't platted pay for that? Or does the city pay for that?
That'll have to be determined, I'm sure, but will you
I think
look
the
into
interest
that?
from the neighborhood is to kick this
Table it.
issue
Yeah,
off or
for-
into
Yeah.
October, so maybe
Okay.
We can do that.
It would be my advice to wait until then rather than
Discuss
do
it.
half of it now and half of it later.
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to have from us at that meeting?
So the
or-
pillar, and so I was just curious about the pillar. I mean, it's been there ever since I remember. Is that something that you want replaced? Or I'm just trying to get clarity on that. Is it
Well,
you
I
want it
think
replaced or
That's
or
something
removed?
we're gonna
or-
discuss in our meeting,
Okay.
which is actually set for September
Okay.
15th. This kind of came just a little bit ahead of that, but, I don't know. I think there's some of us that, I mean, as far as the history and the character of the street and all of that, I mean, it's great and it looks, but I don't know. There is a street sign at Gillespie Place, street sign, I think, at the end of that street, right? So, near center. So it's already marked with the street sign already. I don't know. But that'll be something we'll discuss, so.
And on that end, for some people, the pillars are a block to seeing who's coming. On the west end, they seem to be back further. And so it is a little bit of a safety issue for people as
Yeah,
well.
so they may not even.
Clear
Really
sight,
need to be-
sight,
I mean.
the sight triangle's 25 feet back each direction, so. But we'll discuss it.
We'll see you guys hopefully in October then.
Okay, is there some notification that
Just-
goes in that, or do we just need to look for that?
I would
We'll
say.
make sure you know, Rosie
Okay, I
and Marie.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
You get with Matt and talk to him when,
Stay on
okay.
She knows how to find me.
There you go.
I know.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we're gonna go back to I.
Thank you for bringing it for me.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioners, I think we, let's see. I
7.
think item 8, we're done with the presentation portion of the manager's report, city manager's report. Item I was the presentation of the monthly sales tax report.
Oh,
And if you've got any questions on that, we'd be glad to try to answer that. If there are, we wait for Commissioner Burns to return. So I think item 8, the meetings of note, you'll see that there's quite a bit of activity going on this fall. If any of those things require RSVPs, please do those through CLN. Item 9A is the appropriation ordinance. If it's approved, it would be ordinance number 2490-2019A.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve appropriation ordinance number 2490-2019A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sure.
And seconded by
Commissioner
Commissioner Cessna. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of approving appropriation ordinance 2490-2019A, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Item 10A, the governing body is asked to review and approve the following resolution regarding the 2019 bond sale. If approved, it would be ordinance resolution number 2823-2019.
Okay.
And Melinda?
This resolution authorizes the public sale for the city's general obligation bonds, Series A 2019, in the estimated principal amount of $17,540,000. It sets forth the details of the public sale and authorizes notices thereof. During 2019, you've authorized for 2 projects to go into your general obligation bond. The first one is the Valley View Cemetery irrigation, and that's at $1,430,000. And then also the electric system purchase and acquisition for the balance of that, plus issuance costs are also included in that amount. This bond sale, the next step that we need to do is consider the approval of the attached resolution. We're looking at the bond sale to be October 1st of 2019 at 10 a.m. And at that time, we will have both our financial advisor and our bond counsel here.
I make a motion, we approve resolution 2823-2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 2823-2019. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve changes to itinerant business licensing. If approved, it would be ordinance number 2844-2019.
Okay.
Melissa.
Thank you, Matt. I'm here before you today as the governing body to provide one of 2 memos regarding changes that we're proposing to itinerant business licensing. The first memo I'll be reviewing, going through with you. You have the entire memo before you, and so I'll highlight some of the changes we're going through, and then if you have any questions, address those questions. Neighborhood and Development Staff Services, along with the City Clerk and City's Legal Counsel, have been requested to review Garden City's ordinances regarding itinerant business licensing. When itinerant business licensing was reviewed and considered by the city in 2011, the intent was to further protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. At that time, definitions for itinerant businesses were defined as local itinerant businesses and the non-local itinerant businesses with the newly approved fee structure. In review of those current ordinances, staff proposes changes to itinerant business licensing. As I mentioned, this is the first half of that, and then we'll do the fees in the second memo. We did present these proposed changes at a pre-meeting on July 2nd where we invited the public, and the Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Vision, and Finney County Economic Development Corporation provided the proposed changes to their memberships and encouraged those they contacted, should they have any feedback, attend that meeting. So one of the first changes that we're proposing is that we eliminate the designation of local and non-local itinerant business definitions. This change addresses concerns of deciphering who to consider local versus non-local and eliminates the city coming up with answers to the following questions as you see there on the memo. Who do we consider local? Is that a P.O. box? Is it somebody that relies on economic development or physical location, things of that nature? As we delve deeper into how to amend the definition of local, we talked with other jurisdictions such as Topeka and Lawrence, to name just a few. And they at first liked how we had the local and non-local, but then they ran into the same situation that we were running into, is to define who they consider being local. We feel that the changes that we're proposing to eliminate the local and non-local status will help small entrepreneurs or businesses to operate their businesses to first gauge the market of their goods, foods, or services at a more affordable scale. The second change that we propose is adding definitions for itinerant businesses to be further defined as solicitors, mobile food vendors, and mobile retail vendors. Again, we looked to some of our neighboring jurisdictions to see how they're further regulating those definitions. And we went ahead and provided, as you see listed there, the definitions for mobile food vendors, mobile retail vendors, and further solicitors. Then after we evaluated some of the definitions, we wanted to provide new standards for mobile food vendors and mobile retail vendors and how they are going to be operating within our community. And so we created the mobile food vendor standards, and that is creating items A through H on the memo. One of the last things we did is we went ahead and took a look at the overall ordinance to make sure that we reviewed it for consistency and edited accordingly. So that last section of the proposed changes you'll see there outlined with the bullets are some of the changes that we propose making to itinerant businesses licensing ordinance. Should you approve these proposed changes, that'll make it more consistent throughout the entire ordinance. The alternatives before the governing body are: the governing body may approve the proposed changes to itinerant business licensing ordinance. You may approve the proposed changes to a business licensing ordinance with changes. The governing body may deny the proposed changes to itinerant business licensing ordinance, or you may defer action until a later date. Staff recommends alternative one: the governing body approve the proposed changes to itinerant business licensing ordinance. As a fiscal note, it should be noted that if you eliminate the definitions for local and non-itinerant businesses, then it affects the present fee structure that we have in place.
Any questions, commissioners?
I thought that your pre-meeting when you did was very well attended. It was really excellently done, and I really appreciate that, just the time and the attention, the effort that you've gone to in presenting these, and hope and believe that this is really going to be a benefit to our community. So,
after the pre-meeting, what changes did you make to the proposed at that time and what we see now?
We really haven't made a whole lot of changes except clarifying some things of how we're designating the local and non-local. And then we reevaluated some of the licensing fees, looked further into other communities. But as far as this first memo goes, these are basically the same changes that we proposed at that time.
Okay, so what I heard at that pre-meeting was that the non-food vendors were fine with the local, non-local, all that. What it really sounded like to me was that the change was, what the general feeling was that the current structure is okay except for those food merchants. And those food merchants were wanting to break away and have a separate structure that relates to them. And that's the only changes that they, at that pre-meeting that I was hearing. And so that's where that local, non-local would be, where that kind of squishiness comes in at. Whereas we have like roofing companies where them being local is very important to us doing business, opposed to non-locals who are going to be, I mean, if we have a severe hailstorm event, the non-locals are at just the same advantage, if not even more, because they have rapid response teams to the local, where we almost are giving them an unfair advantage, taking away that local and non-local at the non-food level, the itinerant that's not at the food level. Whereas if we're talking about food, there is a natural barrier to what they can do because they have limited size, they have limited weather times and so forth. So treating both of that type, the food versus non-food, at the same time doesn't even make sense. And that kind of, to me, it seemed like it came out during that pre-meeting that there does need to be a break. And we can't talk about those at the same time. And we do need to be looking at differences. And from my understanding that the whole where this all came about, or a major part of where this all came about, was the food vendors looking to bring up and get different than what we had otherwise.
But I think that raises questions about then, well, at what value of service, like if we're talking about $30,000 roofing jobs, or we're talking about mobile clothing boutiques, you know, I think your point is well taken, and at the same time, I think the questions about, well, how do you define muddy the waters so much that that's what they keep running into. And so I think the point, I guess the point's well taken. I don't know how we completely protect businesses in that manner.
A lot of the roofing
Still be
companies
fair.
will open up a local office in town.
The ones from outside the area?
Huh? Yes.
The ones from outside the area will.
I've seen that happen several times. Now, I don't know about the other businesses, but a lot of them will rent, and it may just be an office that people can go in and talk to them, but.
Well, they still have to have a certain amount of square footage. Under the current rules, they have to have a
Right.
certain amount of square footage even to get that local fee.
Right.
I
think is it 1,200 or?
It's 1,000.
1,000.
1,000
Yeah.
square feet.
So it does prevent fly-by-night,
Yeah.
kind of.
A motel room, renting a motel room and calling it an office, yeah.
Right.
The other thing here, it says, we're changing the time for door-to-door from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. to 8 to 8. Why, 8 o'clock's a little early, but I don't, for some people. Why was that changed?
It was a suggestion brought to us by the city clerk that a lot of the times when she's issuing some of those door-to-door sales, that the 7 p.m. timeframe is a little
early.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I think there was a misprint on this.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It was, currently our ordinance is 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So 10 p.m.
Oh, I
was
see.
So this is
a little late. So this
Yeah.
is,
So now it's, so you're cutting off. I
It's
see.
8, well, you
So
got
it's
8 to
to you.
8.
So you're
Correct.
cutting off 3 hours. Right.
Yeah, 10 p.m. is way too late.
10 p.m. is a little
And
late.
7's too early.
Yeah.
Most people.
Of course, some of us, yeah, 10 p.m.
Okay.
If I could make a comment, Mayor and Commissioner Dick, we got together and talked about the ordinance and the proposals. We could come up with a lot of different scenarios. Well, what about this person? How would you treat this person? And there are some gray areas of some of the people going door to door or selling things. And I think there's a consensus, at least with staff, that let's see how this works. And we're certainly not abhorrent to making changes if it isn't working in one particular area. And I'd suggest that maybe it be set on the calendar for a review in a year, 18 months, if that's what you choose to do, because it is a different approach. I think one of the goals was, when I became involved in it, was to address the repeated requests that you have to consider as to whether somebody's local or non-local. And I don't know that the original purpose behind that change, which I was involved in, is now of importance to you or the city. But that's, again, a policy determination you need to make,
So when these
whether you want to
drafts
get rid
were
of that or not. So.
When these drafts were presented in a recent pre-meeting workshop to sort of get a lay of the land and allow for kind of some direction and input, you know, I think what I'm hearing is this doesn't reflect what came out of that workshop in the way of one of the options should represent a bifurcation between food and other retail. Now, that doesn't paint, I'll tell you now, that doesn't paint a bright line, but we don't have that option anywhere in here. And probably probably should.
So I think well, it's an ordinance for consideration, and if your direction is give us another alternative or another option to consider, certainly staff will do that.
We've got a question back here. Come on up.
Hello, I'm Tim Livermore. I run Ice Guys Lemonade, mobile food vendor here in town. Set up at all the different events. I'm glad that we're addressing this. It's been an issue for us as food vendors. The options that are before us, option 1 and 2. Option 1, I like that option. It gives us a chance to get out and set up within the city without a huge fee like we've had before. I think that's okay. The only concern I have with option 1 is the $1,800 for the first year.
We're not at that point yet.
That's the next.
That's the next,
Oh.
that's the next item. We're still on the
Okay.
local and non-local business itinerant merchant.
It's
We're trying to
all-
figure that
all
out.
together,
Yeah.
so I'll be back up.
No, maybe.
So,
We'll see.
is there any other discussion? Okay.
My name is Candace Rodriguez, and I am the owner of Pinky's Grilled Cheese Strove here, another mobile food unit.
Right.
I would just like to say, could we not just have separate fees instead of local and non-local? Like a fee for the mobile food, a fee for the solicitors, and a fee for the, I don't know, the other one. That's just putting that out there.
Thank you.
Because of the way in which we pass ordinances, that's why the fees are separate.
Sure.
A separate ordinance from this, so. But we do need to change the itinerant business licensing ordinance designations and definitions in order to change our fee structure, unless you would like to leave them the same.
I also had a call from another food vendor that was not happy with the way that this was wrote. Again, reiterating the want for a separate food service outside of the normal itinerant merchant as well that I talked about this morning.
Local? Are they local?
Mhm. Well, defined by here, not local, but they do live here.
Okay.
I would say that we would defer the action until a later date to define, coming from what we've heard at the pre-meeting, but to define a better option between food vendors and non-food vendors, I would say, and bring that back to the commission, and we'll take it up at that time.
Well, that'd also, the next C.
It would
Well,
move that one.
that would
Those
move
two.
that one later,
Right.
too.
Well, then I second.
Sorry, I have a question, just to clarify. So we have it separated between mobile food vendor, mobile retail, and solicitors for the new proposed definitions. So when you say 2 different fees, do you mean 2 different fees for mobile food vendor and mobile retail vendor?
I'm
haven't
hearing
got-
non-food and non-food is what I.
Right.
Okay,
So-
just wanted to be.
Well, that's for this part of it.
Mhm.
I guess, do we have to define it even more so for the other ordinance then?
I think so.
Price.
Or for the
Probably
other, yeah, for the other ordinance?
Well, I think there's no sense of going to the next ordinance.
Well,
If
but
we're
we need
gonna
to define
take-
it, we need to define it a little bit more to make, because it affects the other ordinance as well.
Right.
I would say, I
Well,
would
we've
amend,
got a motion.
Well,
You made a motion.
well, I could amend it, though.
what was the motion?
Well, just to defer action to a later
Just
date
table it.
to.
Alternative 40.
Yeah, to have staff look at this and come back with an updated on non-merchant and food merchant. Or should I have just said defer it later
Well,
date?
we need to hear
But
from
I
a
think-
majority of the.
It's alternative
governing
4
body,
listed
so-
on there.
Right, well, but I defined it a little bit more so they could understand. And the reason why I defined it a little more is because just deferring action,
Right.
then they'd be kind to do what? To make it non-merchant and food vendor.
Right.
Because that was the discussion that was kind of being discussed.
Then I second Roy Cessna's.
Okay. All those in favor of that motion to defer the discussion of this ordinance to a later date. Doesn't really say when, but to a later date. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
One nay. Okay, then C is,
Item C, which if approved, would be ordinance number 2844-2019,
But-
amends.
Would we delay that because of the first ordinance that we
option-
deferred?
That's option 4 under the,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think you need to actually take an action.
On it?
There
Okay.
wouldn't be anything in the minutes to reflect what happened.
Okay.
Did you say 2844, 2845?
it's not going to
Well,
get
there must be
approved.
no-
I mean, it sounds like if it's following the next
Oh,
one,
okay.
but I'm just, I mean, you all want to take the action today.
I move that we delay this ordinance until a later date when we sort out the previous one.
Second.
so it's been moved. Any further discussion? All those in favor, I'd be option 4, actually,
Yes.
to a later date. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve compensation for members of the governing body. If approved, this would be 2844-2019.
Fouling up my notebook system. I already wrote it down. Okay, who's taking that?
I will.
Matt?
Or no, Jared.
He's not.
Jared.
Oh, Jared, okay. The compensation for members of the governing body has not changed since 2006. The 2020 approved budget included an increase in the personnel line item of the city commission. During the August 6, 2019 commission meeting, the governing body discussed the topic of compensation increases, and after this discussion, concluded that they would need more information to make a decision that they would feel would be fair for them and the taxpayers. City staff reached out to all cities of the first class in Kansas. The information that we gathered is attached. The attached ordinance, which if approved would become effective January 1, 2020, proposes the compensation for the mayor to be $12,000 annually, and the other members of the governing body would be $10,400 annually. Following the 2020 calendar year, the governing body members, following the 2020 calendar year, the members of the governing body shall receive the same salary pool increase that the city employees received for that budget year. So we have, since the last meeting, created another option. You see it in alternative 2 there. It just peels back that original recommendation. We also have an alternative which just simply takes the existing amount and increases at the rate of the salary pool from this point moving forward. And certainly you can come up with whatever combination that you feel is appropriate, or make no changes at all. Staff has no recommendation.
Well, I'll make a comment about, I'm not sure we need to vote for the salary pool increase. I'm not sure. We've never really done anything like that, but that's just my opinion. Anybody else?
So you think not to do just the yearly raise like the rest of the salary pool, but rather do intermittent jumps?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't, it's been what, 2006? Is when we had the last increase.
My thought was, it just looking at the peer cities, and certainly there's a huge range. But I think, looking at Dodge is probably our closest peer, you're looking at the same salary. But I also understand the point of, well, then what do we do in another 10 years, 5 years if we don't do any changes? So I kind of was leaning towards maybe just the equal to what everyone else in the organization gets as a raise versus doing a big jump, which I think is maybe not as justified. Again, just my
It's an easier conversation to have just a set increase than every 5 years or 6 years y'all have to decide if you're giving yourself a raise or not. I mean, that's a very difficult thing to request of a body like this. So I'm the same way with Commissioner Burns.
But where would you start it?
I think that's the other thing we have to talk about.
Well, just where we are, not doing any increase, but just start where we are and then pick up like the rest of the employees would.
I would talk about maybe increasing the mayor's pay a little bit, because there is significant time that goes along with that. But on the rest of the commission side, I don't think it warrants us. I mean, looking at the comparables, it's.
What's Dodge's 52 both, yeah.
Liberal is a little bit more than that. Liberal was 6,600 and 6,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do we make a motion? I can make a motion.
That's fine.
I motion that we increase the mayor's pay to 10,000, leave the commission's pay at where it is, and then also implement a 2% raise that is equivalent to the salary pool raise. Can I do all that in one thing?
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that the mayor's pay go to 10,000, the commissioner's 5,200, and then they would do 2% salary increase, or whatever the increase is for the other employees. It may not be.
Just for clarity
so I think,
purposes, is the motion to approve ordinance number 2844-2019 with the changes as you just described in A, which for the mayor would be $10,000 even, rather than $10,400. And it would be the existing rate, which I think is $5,200 for the other commissioner. The rest of the ordinance would be fine because it anticipates the salary pool percentage increase. Is that the way?
Correct. Yes.
Am I
That is
understanding the motion
it.
correctly, and is the second still good on that?
I would prefer that you direct staff to make changes to that ordinance and bring it back before you at the next meeting, because the public has been given notice that you're going to consider this particular ordinance, but you are changing it somewhat significantly. So I would suggest you just direct staff to make the changes and bring it back at the next meeting.
That's fine.
Even though that's alternative 4 is choose a pay increase that's other than what's presented.
I know that's one of your alternatives to discuss, and I think that's what you're telling us you want to do. But to adopt the ordinance, I think the public needs to have knowledge of that ordinance, notice of it before you adopt it. I know at times we've made minor changes to ordinances, but this is pretty material.
Okay.
So I think that we need to.
So then change that to alternate 4 then?
That's fine.
Okay.
So you want to change your motion?
Yeah,
So what, we amend the motion?
Can you?
I
I
think
you
you can if it was seconded.
Yeah.
So just, if you allow the motion to be amended, then we'll just
Yeah.
take it off the table and you can go ahead and make a new motion.
You
If
said,
that's
who
okay.
seconded?
I did.
You did. You want that all right?
It's fine. I'm in agreement.
Okay, so now restate new motion.
I move that we go with alternative 4, choose a pay increase other than what is presented for ordinance, and I don't have the number, 2844, 2019.
No.
Is it?
No.
We're not approving the
We're not
ordinance.
approving. We're not
Not
approving.
yet.
Oh, okay. then
All we're
just-
doing is
Right.
doing 4, okay.
I move for alternate 4.
I second alternate 4.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt our alternate number 4, which is choose a pay increase other than what is presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
1 nay. 4 to 1. Okay, so we still haven't used that 2844. Scratching.
So Mr. Mayor, I know we're getting ready to move into new business. Could we take a short
Short
5-minute break? I would appreciate one. So
Okay. 5 minutes.
that would be great.
2, we'll come back at 2:01. I mean, 3. 3:01. 2.
Hey Jennifer, did you get the, what changes they want to make?
I think I did.
Yes.
Item 12A, Sheila Crane, Executive Director of Downtown Vision, Inc., is here to provide a quarterly update to the governing body. Sheila?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. You've got the report in front of you. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. So the first quarter for downtown businesses especially, and I imagine it was similar across the board, the weather played a huge role. All the snow and the cold and people shopping. So the numbers for the first quarter were down considerably. The second quarter rebounded. So you can see on the numbers, let's see, be on the second slide. So last year, at the end of the year, we were at 162,077.50 cents, and we are not currently, but through June, we're at 87,718. So we did kind of rebound back to about that halfway point in June. The next slide, the numbers at the bottom are just, again, January to June, private investment numbers, public investment numbers, and permit numbers. We're currently sitting at 5 new businesses. I did not fill in where we're at with jobs because a couple of those are still in construction phase, and so we don't have complete numbers for that. We would also expect the new business number to go up a little bit just based on some work and things that we're working on and Fayette County Economic Development is working on before the end of the year. The next slide just has the 5 newest businesses, but what I wanted to touch on is we created just specifically a dining and retail map, and we kind of did a test run with it downtown with customers and business owners, and the feedback was really a lot more positive than we were expecting. We had lots of people picking them up. We had businesses calling us and saying, we've just picked up new customers. You know, somebody handed this brochure to somebody else. Nobody knew we were there. Nobody knew our kind of business was there. So it's been a very positive thing. That brochure, when we created that, was really intended for tourism purposes, and we partnered with CVB. They helped with the cost on printing those maps, but those are the maps that will go into all the convention packets and all those tournaments and everything coming in, Sport of the World, that sort of thing, so that hopefully we can pull some of those people, even if it's a small percentage, into downtown for the restaurants and retail down here. It's hugely beneficial for downtown.
I'd like to have one of those.
Okay.
Bring some to the next meeting.
Okay. We just got them printed and just got them in like about a week ago. So we're following that up with an all business map. The other one's kind of tourism focused. We're trying to pull those people that are just here for the weekend. They're just here for a special event. So the next map will be the all business downtown map. So then we'll try to target those newer people to town with that map so that they're aware that we have those kind of businesses downtown as well as everywhere else. And then we are in the process of converting our membership flyer and our incentives brochure, both of those documents, into Spanish so that we are better communicating with all of our business owners in the downtown district. And hopefully that will be good. That will be a good thing, I think, to be able to get our communication. And then the new banners, you've probably seen them downtown. They're mixed in with the art banners.
Looks good.
There has not been banners ordered in more than 5 years. The banners that we had were really a mess. And we have had a few complaints that they're kind of translucent, they're a little bit see-through when the light hits them in certain areas. And so we did take pictures and send those back to the company they came from. They are going to reprint all those for us at no charge on a more opaque background, so that hopefully those are a little more visible even still. But yeah, we were pretty happy with the way those came out. It's just when the light hits them, there's about a 3 or 4 hour period during the day when they're really hard to see and you can kind of see right through them. Yeah, but otherwise they're great. And then the last thing is, with the KDOT grant and everything that's going on down on 8th Street, the money that Downtown Vision will make from the banner art auction as well as Fall Fest, both for last year and this year, that money is kind of designated for those amenity features that will ultimately go down there, benches and that sort of thing. But then there's also the Commons area, which will be kind of at the corner of Stevens and 8th. There's not a rendering or a drawing for that yet, but in community meetings with those people on 8th Street, they want something that people can sit at. It may be a fire water feature, it may be just a water feature, but with seating. And so based on that information, I wrote a grant, and we just got notified last week. It's a small amount compared to what that whole feature is probably going to cost us. But Downtown Vision was awarded a $2,000 grant by Cox specifically for those amenity features down there on 8th Street.
Good.
And that's all I have, unless you have any
Any questions?
questions for me.
Looks good, thank you.
Thank you.
Good update.
Good report.
Item 12B, Luana Duvall, President of Finney County Economic Development Corporation, is here to provide a third quarter update to the governing body.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Are you done? Are you worn out? So we did include in your packets, we did send over the third quarter quarterly report, which just goes through some of the prospect updates, project updates, and different things that we're working on. A few things I'll pull out of that to kind of touch on. The childcare situation is evolving rapidly, and we're very, very excited. The property closed, I believe, at 11:59 Friday night. The property closed and is now owned by some private developers here locally in town who will make the investments and then lease that building back to us. They're very pleased with the return on investment that they're going to get because, as we told you all along, the child care pays rent and the makerspace pays rent. They come out quite a bit ahead, and they're very pleased with that. So we're very excited to have them at the table helping us with that. That will go before the Board of Zoning Appeals to allow for the conditional use permit for the child care facility at their next meeting, which is next Monday. So we'll get that information into them, and hopefully we won't have any issues with getting that conditional use permit. Additionally, on childcare, we have been asked to speak at multiple things throughout the state. Every community is feeling challenges with childcare, some with cost, some with availability, most with both being the challenge. So because Dr. Carlin serves on the Governor's Council for Education and specifically on the committee related to early childhood education, word has gotten out pretty rapidly about the work that we in Finney County have done related to childcare and, more importantly, to early learning. And we've been recognized as a leading community in that. So we've had the opportunity to speak quite a bit. Right now, we're in the process of forming a partnership with some other state agencies that will allow Finney County to be home to, if you will, a boot camp that communities can come, spend a couple nights in our hotels, and learn how they can go home and fix childcare in their own communities. But as you can imagine, we have put a lot of hours into this, and we appreciate all of the support that we've gotten from our partners to allow us to spend a lot of hours on this in addition to the other things that we do in our office. And we feel like we should be rewarded for that work because, quite frankly, no one else has a solution that is as involved as ours is. And as I've told a lot of these communities when they call and talk to us, from our standpoint, we firmly believe if we do this right, we're going to have the most qualified workforce anywhere in the country in the next 15 years. So we're very excited about those opportunities. Any questions on that I can answer? Okay. Workforce development and the alignment, again, with the Governor's Council on Education. Our Vice Chairman, Bob Kreitzer, serves on the committee that is designated towards aligning or realigning, if you will, our K-12 education with the workforce needs of the general areas that, as they've divvied them up across the state. We have been very aggressive. We started meeting early last spring, and discussing ways that we can better ensure that our students are ready for the workforce that exists for them, but also ensuring that our workforce understands where the students are coming from and helping to make a balance there, if you will. We've had significant opportunities there, have gotten very far down the road on some new pathways that we're creating, and even have both school districts talking about, if we need to change graduation requirements to match workforce requirements, we need to be willing to do that. We need to be willing to look at those opportunities. And instead of just assuming that, well, this kid didn't fit the mold that we had set for them, assuming instead this child chose this path, and we should support that in any way that we can as a community, as educators, and as employers. So a lot of great things to come on that. I think we're going to continue to see really, really positive stuff. I quickly want to go through the job growth report that you had. And I won't do this justice like Shannon did when he presented it to the county commissioners this morning, but I'll give you the highlights, and Shannon will correct me, I'm sure, if you want something different pointed out. But if you look at that first map, excuse me, Garner Economics is nationally recognized economic development firm. They do a lot of site selection. They help, for a fee, communities pay them to help them market their communities and make themselves more attractive. But he does a lot of research just about what is happening. So this comes from the report that was just released at the end of July. And he took every county in every state across the nation and was able to capture data about their job growth. So as you can see, if you look at the top of the legend there, the darker the blue, the more the job growth. And unfortunately, the redder it is, the more job loss. So as you can see, for Finney County, really, we're the only county in the western 2/3 of the state to experience any job growth more than 200. So the ones that don't have much color, that are kind of just a light peach, if you will, those are between -200 and 200. So most of those near us were less than 100 change one way or the other. But again, Finney County obviously stands out in that graphic. Thank you, Matt. You can go to the next slide now. So then I asked Shannon to compare this with what you're used to seeing when you look at Lewis, Hoover, and Dick audit reports, that type of thing. So what are other cities of the first class looking like across the state? And again, as you can see, we're right up there at the very top. That is Johnson County, that has the higher percentage and higher number growth. The map we looked at first is the number of jobs, not percentages. That was number of jobs. This obviously is showing you that in a percentage of our existing workforce at the beginning of 2013 to the end of 2018, we grew by that much. Any questions on that? Okay.
I thought this was a really great representation. These last two were really well done, so thank you.
Thank you, we think so too. So then on this, this is just, again, going through and taking the top 25. So obviously the most populated is going to be the one with the most jobs, which it is. It is Johnson County, and then down to Franklin County would be the last one that made that list. But again, just shows you in pretty real numbers what that change looks like and where we compare to peer counties.
I did have a question. In defining job, these are jobs of all types, part-time jobs, full-time jobs, or is there a formula to determine like a time equivalent?
I believe it's FTEs, full-time equivalents.
Okay.
When we're talking about that, so 2 part-time is 1 full-time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, it is across. They are measuring apples to apples, oranges to oranges in each community. Okay, and then the next slide. This is interesting. We talked about what are the factors that influence this. This chart gives you a lot of data to go through and look at that and see what the specifics are for each of the different counties. But I think what you need to know is this is really talking about, does it have a four-year college or university? Does it have an interstate? And we actually went pure on interstate actually touches this county. And I think this shows you pretty clearly that it does make a difference. Four-year universities, four-year colleges make a difference, interstates make a difference. So we are the only county that had success in spite of not having those. And you know, as Shannon explained to the county commissioner, Matt, if you go to the next slide, this is obviously, assuming linear effects and so forth, but basically, if you look at the data we have here, it shows that's the difference. If you don't have a university, or if you do, the effect is a 7.7% adjustment up. And then the same with the interstate, 2.7 to 3.1, it's a 5.8% change. So if it did work in a linear fashion and all of that was applied at the very same metrics, you could assume we would have 13% higher growth than what we actually did at the 7.2. So, and this graphic is probably the one that helps to really lay that home for you. It becomes very obvious that obviously the green lines are interstates, the dots are four-year colleges and universities. So it becomes very clear that with the exception of Ellis County, the majority of those are in blue, who have both, are certainly in blue. And then the last is just, again, that breakdown that shows where we fit based on median household income, which I know you guys, some of you who have been around a little longer have seen that number in city reports and census reports and so forth. That is a very good growth in that number in Finney County. We have seen good growth in our median household income. County commissioners asked this morning, you know, you can't help but ask, what about the quality of those jobs, right? The fact that our median income has risen the way it has proves out that obviously our wages are increasing with the new job creation as well. As I told them, when I started in my position 9 years ago, Tyson, which is probably as good of an example as any, was starting at less than $13 an hour, and they're now $18.90 to start with no experience. Wow. That's a pretty significant increase in 9 years' time. But that's what happens when you create demand, and you better prepare the workforce to be available to them. I will tell you, we also ran, just kind of set aside concerns about what kind of jobs, quote unquote, they are. We did run the restaurant, retail, and lodging numbers over that same 5-year period in job creation created in those categories, because those tend to be our lower paying entry-level type jobs. Only 266 of the 1,393 jobs were in those categories. So well over 1,127 were completely unrelated to those low paying entry-level jobs. Any questions I can answer?
I was a little surprised at Riley County. I figured they'd be higher than that.
Well, you've got a county there that's very reliant on federal funding and what happens, obviously, with Fort Riley. So you can certainly see there are things that challenge the economic climates in a lot of communities. But again, I think what you should be proud of as elected officials, and what our staff should be proud of in all of our governing bodies, is really that Finney County has been able to accomplish what we have in spite of really every indicator out there. I mean, the economists marvel at how our economy has done what it has done, and I don't blame them. It is absolutely an anomaly, but a large part of that is because this body, not you as electeds, but this body made the commitment to being the regional hub. And it's obviously paid off for us. We're starting to respond very much like a regional hub would.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great
Thank
job.
you, guys.
Item C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the budgets, thereby initiating construction of identified improvement projects at the zoo that are supported by sales tax funds. Christie.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. After the election of November 2017, when the county sales tax was approved to provide funding for various projects, including zoo improvements, we have taken steps towards the improvements discussed at that time, which were an expansion of the animal health facility, a new flamingo habitat, and a new primate habitat, which is also partially funded by Friends of Lee Richardson Zoo. GLMV Architecture was hired. Then Hutton Construction was hired as construction manager at risk. Plans were developed and reviewed, and changes were made with budget and quality in mind. These plans have been through site and permit review. Now we present to you the budgets for the projects, which include the guaranteed maximum price from Hutton Construction and the associated soft costs, as well as a maximum allowance for construction administration. The construction administrator would be selected via the formal bid short process in the upcoming weeks. The total cost covered by the funds generated by the approved county sales tax would be $2,869,356. If you do all three projects, including the alternate of a concrete drive at the animal health facility and the construction administration allowance. The breakdowns per project and GMP and soft costs are in the materials you have. If approved, Hutton Construction will supply an amended contract to be signed. enabling construction to start at the end of the month with a projected duration of 10 months. And you have lots of options in front of you there,
Yeah.
which include doing all three. The first one is all three projects with the alternate of the driveway instead of concrete driveway instead of a gravel driveway, which we figure is a cost that will incur year over year to maintain the gravel. So that's the cost benefit of that. It also includes the cap for or the maximum allowance for the construction administrator. Other options are to drop one of the projects, but there are associated costs with that.
So all three of these projects will take place roughly at the same time, and
Yep.
you're saying will be completed within the 10-month period?
Yes.
And that includes I know that I just lost it. The Friends of the Zoo, they're doing the carousel, does that include?
The
or is that
carousel
separate?
project is not moving forward at this time.
Okay.
I make a motion, we approve the budget for the animal health facility, including the concrete drive, flamingo habitat, and the primate habitat, and the construction administration maximum allowance.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve. That would be alternative
one.
one. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 5-0.
Thank you.
Good job.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Item E, the governing body is asked to consider and approve and accept the low price from Techline in the amount of $153,781.39 for electrical distribution, conductor, and insulators. Mike?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I sent a new revised staff memo around. It's on the dais for you to look at. There was an error in the memo that I put together and put in the packet. However, the award and the amount of the award stayed the same. So I'll just go through this and I'll explain that error. You're asked to consider and approve and accept the low price from Techline in the amount of $153,781.39 for electrical distribution, conductor, and insulators. We received prices from 3 different vendors for these items, the Techline, and then Ann Exeter. This is the revised number that was in error. This is the correct number. It's $172,428.53, and then Border States bid $102,102.21, but theirs was incomplete because they only bid the conductor only. This material is going to be used for the construction of a new electrical distribution line that will be rerouted completely off of the Jenny Barker corridor. So when Jenny Barker is widened at the north end, we'll be removing all of that power line to make room for the widening of that street. So your alternatives is to accept the low bid from Techline at $153,781.39, or do not accept the bid and direct staff to do something different.
I
We
move-
recommend alternative 1.
Yeah, I move that we accept the low bid from Techline in the amount of $153,789.39 for electrical distribution, conductor, and insulators.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve alternative number one, which is the low bid Techline for $153,781.39. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd like to ask for you to consider moving item number 3 from the consent agenda up to now to new business, and I will explain there was an error in that as well, if that's okay.
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 Number 3.
This item, again, I sent a revised cover memo around. You should all have a copy of that, and it's on the computer. Matt wants to pull that up. What happened here, the no sales tax was added to any of the vendors for the poll bids. So we went back and added the proper 8.95% sales tax, and the numbers that's reflected in this that I'll go over now are the correct ones. So we're asking you to consider and approve the low price from Bell Lumber and Pole for utility power poles. We received prices from 5 different vendors for a variety of different sizes and types of poles. The low bid there was Bell Lumber and Pole with sales tax was $165,922.13, lower than the other 4 bidders. And these power poles will be used for the construction of this power line that you just approved the material on, that will be used to reroute a power line, and the one on Jenny Barker will be removed. Alternatives accept this low bid from Bell Lumber and Pole in the amount of $165,922.13, or do not accept that low bid and direct staff to do something different, and staff recommends alternative 1.
So Mike, the copy in front of the commission, it's correct, the hard copy in the packet, and there isn't an image on this PC, but just for anybody that is interested. This was a straight across the board on all bids, that these numbers just don't reflect sales tax, and so all 5 of these numbers had sales tax added to them to get to the correct number. And so the low bid stays the same. Bell Lumber and Pole, the new amount is $165,922.13. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Melinda, question. Are you sure we have to pay sales tax?
Yes.
Okay.
State statute
Really?
on electric utilities.
Because we're collecting state sales tax when we sell it. Doesn't make sense, but, okay.
I make a motion we approve the price from Bell Lumber and Pole for utility power pole purchase in the amount of $165,922.13.
I second his motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve Bell Lumber and Pole for $165,922.13, which includes sales tax. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Back to
Item 12F, the governing body is asked to consider and approve reducing the amount of public advisory board representatives. Mike?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. The governing body passed resolution number 2644, 2015, back in October of 2015, thus creating the Public Utilities Advisory Board. The purpose of this was to foster public interest and participation in the operations of Garden City's public utilities. This resolution called for 9 representatives to serve on the board by appointment of the governing body. 7 representatives had to live within the city. The other 2 could live anywhere within Finney County. Since the creation of this board, they have struggled trying to fill the 9-member requirement. They've actually struggled many times to even have 5 members present to have a quorum to conduct business. So they've asked me to come forward and ask you if you would consider reducing that amount from 9 to a lesser amount, which would need to be an odd number so that we don't have a tie there if you choose to do that. And the reason we really decided to do this now was we currently have 5 members whose terms will come up in January of 2020. We have 3 current vacancies. One was the late Gilbert Valerio, and then Constance Smith, who resigned and moved to Colorado. So we thought if you would consider it sometime between now and January, we would work with the city attorney and create a different resolution and bring it back for your consideration.
I'll just make a motion to approve the request to reduce the PUAB board membership from 9 to 5 board members.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to reduce the board members for PUAB from 9 to 5. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, and I apologize for the
Thanks.
error
Okay.
on the other earlier stuff. That's my fault.
Item 12G, we don't expect action after that. 12H is the consent agenda with the removal of H3. The appropriate motion, if you wish to approve the consent agenda, is to approve items H1, 2, and 4.
I would move that we approve the consent agenda items 1, 2, and 4.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, items 1, 2, and 4. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The
Commission
executive,
reports.
the executive session, staff requests governing body consideration of an executive session. The statute is cited. The specific purpose would be for potential liability.
Correct.
Who needs to be in the executive session?
Oh, Randy, Jennifer, and I.
How long?
Should we do this after our commission reports?
We should.
Yeah. why
Yeah,
not?
good idea.
Thank you.
Okay.
You've done this once or twice.
Okay.
Let's, hold off. We'll do that. Let's do the commission reports. Commissioner Unruh.
I just wanted to say some really exciting things happening, really good work today. I'm really encouraged about lots of the different reports, Downtown Vision, the economic development, the report from the Sports of the World Complex, and so I'm excited about the ways that Garden City is moving forward, and that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Burns.
Yes, thank you for the pre-meeting today, and thank you to everyone who's worked on city symbols and city flag, and I hope that we can go forward and find something that unifies and inspires all of us as a community. That's all I have.
Commissioner Sessions.
I agree with Commissioner Burns on the pre-meeting. It was good, a lot of good discussion. Just need to find out where we need to go from there, if the commission wants to move forward or not on that project. But a lot of good discussion in the pre-meeting this morning. Well, wanted to mention that Phase 2 of the bypass is going to be starting this week, so just be mindful that there's going to be changes in traffic around our community again because of the project, so just be mindful of that. A lot more traffic going up Campus Avenue, or Drive, Campus Drive, a lot more truck traffic and cars, so just be mindful of that. And that's all I've got.
Okay, Commissioner Dick.
Went to the KDOT listening tour. It wasn't called that, but it basically was listening tour at Dodge City. I think Southwest Kansas did a very good job of being unified in its voice about what our needs are for transportation. Might not be aligned with exactly what KDOT is thinking, but I think we did a good job of that. Other quick thing was just that had family in town this last weekend. Yeah, I always forget how well Garden City shows to people who haven't been here, and they are surprised about what we have when you go around and show them what we've been doing, and it's only going to get better. So it's fun to have every once in a while that kind of reminder. Thank you.
Enjoyed the update on the Star Bond project. I'm glad to see some dirt being moved here shortly. I think it's supposed to, he said, by the end of September. Also, I want to remind everybody of the forums that are coming up in October. There's 3 of them, and City Commission is on October 15th. And the others, may see where they are. Some Mexican Fiesta is this week. This coming week. Other than that, that's all I have. Okay, I guess we're ready for executive session. You ready?
Are you gonna read the statute?
Beat it?
What would you say?
Are you going to read it? Make a
I can do
motion?
it.
Okay.
Make a motion, we go into executive session pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 pertaining to consultation with an attorney for the body or agency which would be deemed privilege and attorney-client relations for the matter of potential liability, with Randy Griselle, Jennifer Cunningham, and Matt Allen in the meeting for 30 minutes. We'll be getting out starting at 3:35 and leaving at 4:05.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right.